2, 1. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Delusions of Grandeur. I am one of your hosts, but today we are going to be continuing our X Strike Studios film series, and I believe that my good friend and buddy over here, Jake, is going to be hosting tonight.
Apparently.
I shall be helping him along with everyone else. So,
what's that?
I shall be helping along with everyone else. So, let's begin. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about the movie that we are going to be talking about?
Well, real quick, it looked like Brandon was trying to interject something there.
I did want to do one shout out, and I know that Jake would approve, is wanted to do a shout out to all of you Van Halen fans out there, because before the news out today, Eddie Van Halen had passed away.
Oh,
I know you like to throw those up where you can, so I wanted to go ahead and put that out. Dedicate this to Van Halen.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to see Van Halen twice. Once with David Lee Roth and once with Sammy Hagar. And he was a big reason why I took playing guitar seriously growing up. But this really hit me hard.
Yeah, that's big. Like, I heard people talking about it. I didn't really hear the context. But yeah, they were talking about, like, you know, it's one of those people, it's like, I know him, but do I know what he really did? Like, if I heard their music, I'd know for sure. And just like, but yeah, I know he was huge as a guitarist, like one of the ones that people looked up to big time.
Oh, right. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Among some of the greats with Sammy Hagar and Robert.
Wow, that's crazy. So
alrighty.
Alrighty. On lighter news, big shout out to all the Van Halen fans there and what have you.
Thank you.
So I think this is actually the end of our X Strike excursion, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Unless they get back together and put some more stuff out, you know, which I know Brandon's hoping for that. But we have a 2009 film co-directed by and co-written by Tim Ekkebus and Rory O'Boyle, and a loose sequel to their previous silent horror. And this is called Resident Horror. Yes, Dave is showing us a nice little cover art there. I think I have one. I might have put mine away. Oh, no, here it is. Because it is a cool cover art. I do like the images here, but we'll go ahead and use this as a... So basically, you've got this guy, the main guy, is Tokeen, what was his name? Tokeen Jackson. It's played by Casey Bowker. The guy who is kind of the kind of swarthy-looking dude here is their team leader, if I'm remembering correctly. I think it was his name, Clyde Paling, played by David Ottavino, who finds everything troublesome.
Yeah.
And he reminded me a little bit of Shikamaru. I believe this young lady here must be Penny, or is it Penny?
I couldn't remember I couldn't put characters to names, so that's why I was like, I'll let him
Polly Gatt, who's played by Maggie McCracken.
And I just wanted to interject something here.
What's up?
Evidently, David Ottavino actually came from the Chris Seaver film troupe of actors, as well as the one of the directors, Tim Ekkebus. He came from the Chris Seaver film troupe, which there's a lot of people who stem from that, you know, that part of the SOV horror comedy, and I know that the director was more so than anyone here. So I just wanted to point that out. He was in Anal Paprika 3 and films.
Well, a lot of I think we discussed a little bit some of their side projects with some of the other films. They've definitely done a lot of those kind of, you probably missed them unless you were looking for them kind of movies. But and a lot of these, these characters get recycled and whatever. Like I think the Project Snake one, I know Bowker was one of the not a star, but like he had a large supporting role.
If I remember correctly, Chris Super started out with no budget films, and then he morphed into Warlock films. So that's kind of where he's coming from independently. I just wanted to share that with you guys.
It's worth noting that this one clearly had a little more of a budget to work with than River City Rumble did.
Yeah, considering that was their first film, yeah, that would be it'd be hard not to.
Right.
I think this is my favorite. Well, I'll wait till first.
Right. So we've got here this guy here, if I'm not much mistaken, representation of characters is Sherman Booker, the kind of affable, chubby. I guess he's sort of like their desk sergeant, I guess you could say. And he's played by George Steffler. And then you've got this guy who, if I'm not mistaken, I think that's Gil. Gil was the one who was the obsessed weapons nut, right?
Yeah, very.
And Ben Lathan is the guy that plays him. And that's basically, so you have this group called SPARS, Super Police Action Rescue Squad. It's called Badger City. And Tokeen is the rookie. And of course, his rookie field gear is a basketball and a tactical vest. That's it. That's like his field gear. And then at one point, he's like, why does everyone call me rookie? And then someone just points at his vest and said rookie right there. And it was like, he's like, oh,
the basketball is an effective weapon, as they find out.
They do find this out, yeah. And then you've got their commander is a man named Albert Whisker. Yeah. Which I know this is a direct knockoff of Wesker. I know that much. And he basically is this cipher, basically, not a very friendly one either. And he insists they're dispatched into the field for a rescue mission, I believe it is. And they're on the property of a group calling itself the Parasol Corporation, which I know is a direct knockoff of the Umbrella
Corporation.
And then they have so basically they go out there, and Whisker insists on coming along to the very strong annoyance. It was very troublesome to Mr. Peeling. They have this little sort of face-off about who's actually in charge. And then they run into another outfit, another team who's working directly for Parasol. And this group has a guy with the name Ass-Kick Broadchest, played by Ross Bush, a guy named Johnny Redshirt, played by Darren DeMarco, and of course wearing a bright red shirt. A very amusingly accented leader of their group is Carlito Chavito, who's played by Hector Martinez. There's also Dee Dee, who's played by Meredith Shito. And I feel like there's another, the dude with the mask. What was his name? Was he Ned?
Let's see. Believe. Yeah, he might have been.
I don't remember. Yeah, there's a dude named Ned Kimura who's played by Matthew Mahoney. Maybe that was him. I don't remember, honestly. And then there's the guy played by Rich Durham, Edward freaking Lindsay.
Yes.
This is a character I learned by reputation before I ever saw this movie, because our the One Piece game we used to be in, the GM introduced him as the captain of a rival team of pirates.
Yeah.
And so I introduced him in a one-off game that I played, because I did a brass rackets tournament, which if you've seen No Slayers, you'll know the reference. And he was teamed with a character of mine. It was pretty fun. So that was my introduction. But the first time I saw this movie, okay, I feel a little bad. The last one we did was Project Snake, and I may have been a little harsh on the movie in certain aspects, and one of the people involved was watching, and I didn't step on any toes. But
well, they know about this particular one. I don't know if they're watching, but they do know about this stream right now.
I do know that I accused them, that movie more accurately, of being much more misogynistic than I remembered. But in my defense, these video games are.
Yes.
This one, though, didn't feel that way. And I think it may be partly due to the fact that Resident Evil famously has an ass-kicking female character involved with it.
Mm-hmm.
But Edward Lindsay is a strange case. We talked last week about the Ballad of Cable Hogue, and it's a shame that Mo couldn't comment on this, because this character and the Reverend Joshua Sloan are cut from the same cloth. And I think they would get along swimmingly. What's that?
Should we be getting to first impressions?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, that's our usual MO, isn't it? So I guess I've kind of talked about my first impression. I was introduced to it through the back door, sort of, and I've enjoyed it both times I've seen it. How about you, Dave? How about you?
Well, I will say that this is a better film than Silent Horror was for me. But I would actually still put this still in league with. Obviously, I still think that River City Rumble is the best out of the film. And I put it in the same league as that, because the comedy is there. And I would have to say that they had a better budget on this film than they did on previous films combined. So to me, that was kind of a plus. I mean, yeah, you're seeing early signs of CGI, which is that which you can buy
CGI
for more than $1,000, you know. So I'm assuming. Let's see. Did they say how much?
That whole scene with the basketball and the missile was priceless.
So the budget was estimated around $1,000.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's not bad for $1,000.
No, not bad.
No.
I'd be willing to wager over half of that was the camera itself. I mean, or if this was like if they were just working with what tools they had and it cost $1,000 from there. I don't know.
I enjoyed the film. I enjoyed the film for what it is for my first time watching it. So I mean, I definitely got the video game vibe, obviously, especially when they come upon that locked door later on. So
the one with the crank.
Yeah. But, what about you? What was your first impression of this film?
I think he was putting it to you, Forrest.
Oh, okay. Okay, so, all right, yeah, we can quite make out whose turn was. Anyway, so this is my first time. This was actually my first time watching a movie from X Strike, and also like as far as the Resident Evil series, I used to. I played them when I played them growing up, but I haven't. But last Resident Evil game I think I played was like 3 or 4, and that was over 15 years ago. But overall, I enjoyed it. I think like any good parody movie or mockbuster seems to have like a good an appreciation for the subject matter that it's lampooning. And I really think they love, you can tell these guys love the Resident Evil series. Like, it's definitely a love letter to the franchise. Hell, I actually feel like it's a better Resident Evil movie than the ones that Paul W.S. Anderson crapped out.
Those movies have gobble scat.
Yeah. Another character that I believe showed up in some of our games. So I know, before I turn it over to you, Brandon, I know you can comment a lot more on both sides, the video game and the movies. I should definitely mention that I am not familiar with Resident Evil as a game. I do know the characters somewhat from the ones who have appeared in fighting games, like Wesker and Jill and whatnot.
Jill Valentine.
I've definitely played them a few times in the like Marvel v Capcom and whatever. So I've seen the characters a little bit. What's up?
See, I got into the Resident Evil game series during the Resident Evil Code Veronica. And then I went backwards and checked out the others that kind of went with, and then went forwards from there. So I do like like much of the Resident Evil story,
right?
And I think that's true for a lot of gamers. I mean, when it comes to zombie games, the first one they think of is Resident Evil, and then from there on, it's like Left 4 Dead or Stubbs the Zombie or things of that nature, So.
And also, I did make I was going to say as well, and I think I mentioned this in some of the previous ones, that I'm familiar enough with video games to know that I want to agree fully with Forrest Point that even for someone who's a casual gamer, you can watch these movies and you can tell that this is not mockery so much as homage. Like, they are definitely poking fun at the tropes, but but it's from a place of love.
They definitely have respect for the game genre of the Resident Evil thing. They poke more fun at references to other movies than they do fun at the game itself. So that I will say something for it.
Like the blatant Jurassic Park reference.
Right.
That's interesting. And you, Brandon.
John Hammond, I will, after further consideration, I will not endorse your park.
I decided not to endorse your park. So
I have an interesting relationship with X-Strike and with Resident Evil. Back when PlayStation first came out in the 90s, a friend of mine got it first, and I got an N64 because I was a Nintendo kid. Eventually getting it because of Final Fantasy VII. But a friend of mine did show me this game, and this was back when they had the games in the big boxes. They were like this tall, and it was very weird looking, old boxes. And it had exactly that cover with Chris looking like all crazy, like Forrest has on. And my friend didn't have enough to afford a memory card. So he would just keep playing the game over again, and if he died, that was it. So the horror was
game
real.
Over, man.
And he became extremely good at the game. He could beat some speedrunners and his ability to get through it. And I eventually picked it up after that with the director's cut that came out after that, which was also very fun. And I was in love with the series ever since. It was a mixture of horror, which I wasn't a big fan of back then, but I still really liked the gameplay, and just action. So it just was a really fun series to be on the ground up. And I played most of the games. I played the Game Boy game, as bad as it was. And there's only a handful I haven't played. So to see this as an homage, that was always a great thing, because I was kind of disappointed in the movies. Now I watch them. It's sort of like the X-Men. I kind of got over my like, okay, this has nothing to do with the source material. Anger at it, and just watch them as what they are.
Yeah, when it comes to game related movies are kind of their own thing. And unfortunately, when you're invested in the game franchise, like some people are, sometimes your opinions collide with that did not happen in the fucking game. You know?
Lies. Everyone knows Super Mario Brothers was a perfectly faithful adaptation.
I think the problem with video game movies is that they get hung up on trying to emulate the mechanics of the game rather than focusing on the story.
And that was why Silent Hill was actually one of those weird exceptions. It was one of the first few Hollywood adaptations that tried its darndest to be closer to the film. I mean, not to the film, to the source material. Now, there are three animated Resident Evil films that are in the game canon. And there is a new series coming out to Netflix. So it's going to be interesting for Resident Evil fans out there. So if you like the game and you're like, I'm into the game canon, those three, Degeneration, Vendetta. Of course, I did the first one and the third one, and I can't think of the second one. But they're pretty good. I mean, you actually feel in the first of those movies like, ooh, this is the cutscene. I'm getting ready to take control of the character.
What was the X-Strike movies that had the ninja in the office sections? Because during this movie, I noticed the same office cubicles that were in that film.
Oh, you're probably thinking of Project Snake.
That one I think had a ninja, yeah.
And I was introduced through a mutual friend of Jake's and ours, Brittany, to X-Strike back around 2005. They just finished Silent Horror, and I'll check that in a minute. But Silent Horror was the first actual exposure, other than River City Rumble, which was pretty fun. And so, of course, I was all invested when this one was getting ready to come out because I was looking for the news, I was following the production, I was doing all that. I was like big into I was a big fanboy. So it was kind of cool when this came out. I was really excited, and I wasn't disappointed. To me, it was the best. It was the best of the best film, as far as I was concerned.
Right. Good deal. So that gets everyone caught up there, huh? So I guess I kind of already launched headlong into the characters, but let's back up just for a minute and do the basic. We've already mentioned that this is it's basically the spoof on Resident Evil. IMDb says, witness the horror the WAT virus unleashes on the populace of Badger City. It's Spars versus the Parasol Corporation in this Resident Evil parody made from and for gamers. So
I will say,
it's not a bad.
I will say this: we didn't learn that it was the WAT virus until like 3/4 into the movie. So I might have wanted to learn a little bit more of it beforehand, before they got that cute doctor.
Yeah, it was interesting. So basically, as we alluded to, Resident Evil is well known as essentially a zombie story. And so you have this thing where these people are wandering around eating other people and just, So like I said, there's sort of a rescue, sort of a distress signal or what have you, and they're sent into action. And they you get this little around the office scene where you kind of meet everyone, figure out, their role in the game. You've got, like I said, the no nonsense leader who thinks everything is troublesome. And you got like I said, the affable, basically desk sergeant guy. You've got the gun nut who is almost always carrying a weapon or using a weapon or talking about using a weapon. We kind of forgot about the I can't even remember what he did. And I think that was Gil. It might have actually been Gil. I think Ned might have actually been the gun nut. I don't remember. But there was this guy. I'm pretty sure Gil was the guy that you just forget because he had very little personality. I can't even remember what he did. And then Polly was the medic, and they all had and then you had the rookie, And like I said, they all had their own they all had a very distinctive look. They were like very obviously archetypes. They kind of, the medic had this, little weird little backpack she always carried around, and basically, and she was kind of. They were kind of a fun group in a way, and then like I said, the other group you got, basically, Carlito was sort of like what you might see as a stereotypical Latin revolutionary type, basically. There was the dude with the face mask who was just kind of
face mask
guy. That's what we'll call him. And then Johnny Redshirt was actually there's just this short little dude with the red shirt that seemed disposable. And then you got Dee Dee, who was apparently their weapons nut, or seemed to be. And you had Ass Kick Broadchest, who's just what his name sounds like. He was like Snake all over again, just the big brawny dude. And Edward Lindsay was sort of like almost the Indiana Jones type, the very
I would say David Livingston or what's that guy from Jumanji?
Yeah, I mean, he was. That's what I say. It was like he was like the Jones type, but he wasn't. He was definitely a Lothario. So it was different. You know who he reminded me the most of more than anything? We talked before about how Reverend Sloan was sort of a prototype, arguably, for many anime characters. This is, of course, the other end of the scale, and these guys, as avowed video game nuts, might have been familiar with this anime trope. He reminded me a lot of Ataru Moriboshi because he's always trying to build up his harem, and I think that it would definitely be appropriate. Like the first time you see him, he basically says my favorite line in the whole movie. He goes up to Polly with his little. He has that magnifying glass. He just uses the exaggerated comic effect, and he just goes up to her and looks at her, and he's like, "Edward Lindsay currently has 64 ideas, and from the looks of it, you could benefit from at least 37 of them." Oh my God. Great character.
Well, he has got to be the standout character in the entire movie. I mean, he's the one that's the quotable one.
Yes.
He is the one to. I know when you were watching it, Jay, you were like throwing out one quote after another about that.
I did do a few of them, and one of the characters is not long for this world is his female teammate Dee Dee. And after her run-in with the diseased individuals, he sees the remains. I knew Dee Dee inside and out, and those are Dee Dee's insides.
Yes.
It's so bad. But Yeah, so I'll mention a couple more as we go along. Unfortunately, IMDb does not have a quotes page. They're slacking on this one. They don't even have 5 people who've rated it.
No reviews either.
Huh?
No reviews either.
I know. It's like they've got a pretty good write-up for it, just nothing else. It's weird. But anyway.
So, Forrest, what did you think of Edward freaking Lindsay?
Edward Lindsay, oh boy.
You know what's even funnier is I just watched an episode of Flash where I like how Tom Felton joins the cast at one point. You know, Draco Malfoy himself.
Yeah.
And I watched an episode where they went dimension hopping, and he came along dressed very much like Edward Lindsay. I can't quite think of Draco spouting those quotes. It's hilarious to think of. But at any rate, yeah, so did anyone else, let's just go ahead and say for right now, did anyone else think if there were any other really standout characters that they really want to dive into?
Polly.
Okay.
I actually find Polly interesting, again, because I know where they're drawing her from. They're drawing her from Rebecca Chambers, who is kind of she's just like the one surviving member of the previous team that had gone in before the Stars team in Resident Evil. And she's kind of this like just support character.
Mm-hmm.
Later on, you get to play a game starring her, which is kind of cool. But it's great. I mean, the fact that she has this scene in her mind later on in the movie where she's like doing Resident Evil movie style moves, taking the double shotguns and just basically kicking butt. I just find that hilarious as it is. It's just a great character. I think that it's fun. She's kind of in the background like the main character, but she does such an excellent job with it.
I saw a little bit of like Laura Croft in that move, to be honest.
Yeah.
So, but
a little bit. And she, I liked her too. I thought she was fun. You know, like I said, I felt like in the Project Snake, I complained that most of the females were kind of one note, and I thought she had a little more depth to her. She definitely had more. Even though that whole scene turned out to be a fantasy, she did get to sort of kick ass for a bit. And, other than that, she did fine. And she did a good job verbally sparring with Edward Lindsay, which could not have been an easy thing to do.
Yes.
But I was disappointed at how easily she was off. It was kind of, I feel like that was unfortunate. That was, and spoiler alert, by the way. People, y'all know by now that we do spoilers. But yeah, they kind of, after all this time of playing her as pretty competent, she just did something like what I would probably do in a game. Oh, I'm going to go collect herbs.
I did like how during the forest scene, when they threw that grenade, you saw a bunch of dirt like get thrown at them or whatnot. I don't know how they did it, but they did a screen away shot, and you saw a bunch of dirt flying towards them, like something like there was in fact a grenade. So
yeah.
And I did like the blood splatters throughout the film. Those were relatively real looking.
Yeah, this one to me, it hit a good balance, and I guess we'll maybe go more in depth on any other production stuff a little as we go. But I feel like it hit a good balance for me, because y'all know I don't like the super detailed, super gory, whatever. But I don't mind a little blood splatter, And if you get it to that thing where it's like just fake enough to be cheesy rather than fake looking, You know what I mean? That's usually a pretty good way of going about it, I think.
I like they kind of build off of their roots with silent horror, and of course they have some of the creatures from silent horror in this one. Believe it or not, Gobblescat was originally a silent horror creature that they cut out of the main film.
Okay.
So he was originally going to be the last creature there.
Was this the one with the chains, or was this the one with the knife? The Klingon.
No, Gobblescat was the turkey.
Yeah, Gobblescat was the big turkey with the two claws for hands.
You did realize that big ass knife was a Klingon weapon, right?
Yeah. Well, they used. I mean, you got to keep in mind with the low budgets. I mean, of course, River City Rampage was done for $100, and this was the most expensive. So we're going from the least expensive at 100 to 1,000. They've called in favors and put in personal props. If you watch their series Off Campus, and most of it is on YouTube, by the way, so check out their channel. It's still got some of their fun stuff. It's got a lot of their short films on it. Sadly, none of their feature films, which at this point, I really think that their feature films should be digitally up because I'd hate to lose them. But it's kind of cool because Off Campus shows a lot of their love for video games, and it's just in general a fun series. So that's one that you can only watch all of it online. You can only 2 episodes are on like DVD. So it's just I think it's fun just seeing that love for it just displayed.
So back to characters for a bit. What do y'all think of the main guy, Tolkien? What do y'all think of him as a character?
Well, since when did the Harlem Globetrotters decide to send one of their best, you know?
Was he one of their best?
I like how the basketball is like a tactical weapon. I don't know what they used.
I feel like there's this opportunity to make it to do an homage to Deadly Friend right there.
Yeah, I can see that.
Well, it is true that you can make a weapon out of anything if you know what you're doing, or if you're just lucky.
I am glad for one thing about this, and this is something because I remember you were talking a little bit about some of the jokes that don't hold up, and this is something that didn't hold up well in a lot of the earlier stuff. Was kind of the racially charged comedy,
right?
But now they actually have people of color with representing people of color in this film. So I was like, wow. So I really don't feel bad about. There was no cringe. Well, there was very little cringe factor about this at all because of that.
Although what was it, Sergeant Whiskers or Captain Whiskers or whatever, he did make a racial comment. He said,
I'm sure he did.
He did say, well, I guess the token black person didn't die first, did he?
Yeah,
he did. Yes,
that was a bit.
Now that was one thing they did a lot of. They did poke fun at conventions of who would die first. Like one of those
red shirt.
Yes, one of those quotes that I put up was after they'd been split up for a while and they're reintroduced to each other. Edward Lindsay looks at him, Johnny Redshirt, you're still here? And then they keep, throughout the rest of the movie, they keep making jokes at his expense. And he talks, one of them explains the history to him, which is I think Edward Lindsay gave him this long historical thing. But I think the real history of it is, in Star Trek, they were the first to die.
Yep.
That was funny.
Yeah. But as far as the racial thing go, but Whisker was the kind of asshole who could say something like that and you wouldn't hold it against the movie.
And he's supposed to be a bad guy, so yeah.
Right. And Carlito was a fun guy. I mean, he was funny.
In this day and age, the racial commentary like that probably would not hold up.
Like I say, it depends on how it's presented and who it's presented.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Matter group being like, take that off the shelf.
Well, again, like some of my previous comments about the earlier ones, like in River City Rumble, where you have this clearly white dude doing a Latino stereotype, and and then in Project Snake, where you have the clearly white girl with a Chinese name doing a clear Japanese stereotype. It's a little off, but this one they didn't go there, so I'll give them props for that. But again, I do understand the whole thing in Project Snake was probably based off of the video games because
very much so.
They were very
Kojima is a sexist person.
Yes.
There's no ifs and buts about it.
So I give them some leeway there. But yeah, this one to me had very little cringe factor, and relative to the others, but just in general, most of the cringe factor could have come from Edward Lindsay. The thing is, he was so over the top. That's part of it. If you're going to do these kind of things, lean into it.
Actually, that's why I think that this one could withstand modern scrutiny better than any of the films that they have done prior.
Probably.
Because look at South Park. Look at some of those films that, well, South Park is a hard one to say because South Park goes so hard at offending everybody that nobody ends up offended at the end of the day. Or those who get offended get kind of like, yeah, whatever, and move on because it's just, people look at it as like South Park.
Although Chef has recently been in the news off and on about being stereotypical of your modern day black individual.
Well, Chef made the news for all the wrong reasons a few times, and not the least of which when Isaac Hayes publicly left and the showrunners didn't exactly give him a happy send off.
Well, they did that as it was kind of insulting, but at the same time, they looked at it as they looked at the Scientologists as a cult that had brainwashed their friend and taken him hostage. So in a way, this was a kind of a sad farewell in their mind to a friend that they feel like they lost, which is, it depends on your opinions of Scientology, and I'm not going to be smart. I'm not gonna say they're bad or good. I'm just gonna say that that's the way that they looked at it.
Anyway,
they're not alone. But
so where are we in the plot here?
Well, I don't know. We got very far into the plot, but we'll go ahead. So after meeting the other team and determining that they're technically working together, they kind of split up and kind of cross teams a little bit. Some from each team going, in each direction. And
instead of that Carlito dude in charge, it's Clyde Peeling.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Clyde was using the opportunity to say, I'm being threatened in my leadership role with Whisker coming along. I'm going to pawn him off on these guys so I can take control over my group again.
You got to get into character. That's troublesome.
Yes.
You remind me so much of Shikamaru.
It goes back to our games again with my character Unko.
Unko, yes. All right. So, and I'm trying to remember. Am I remembering correctly? I think it was Clyde, Tokine, Polly, Edward, and wasn't it the what's his face and the other one, Sherman and
other one,
Sherman and Carlito? Wasn't it them on one team? Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, because was Sherman the guy who was obsessed with food?
Yes.
He reminded me of the guy from Thanksgiving, the one who ate the turkey.
He kind of reminded me. I keep calling him Desk Sergeant. He reminded me of the Desk Sergeant in Zootopia a little
Oh
bit.
yeah, that too. I was thinking about that when I was watching the film, especially when he was like giving like the rundown to the rookie.
Right. Yes. So it was good times. And so they each have their own run-ins with the creatures, if you will, and get kind of routed. Lots of well, not total death and destruction. I mean, Dee Dee gets it, although she gets to be a bit of a badass before that. And then the dude whose name we can't remember, but I think is Gil, he gets turned. And there was another one right then, wasn't there? And Whisker disappears.
Yeah, he gets chained out of view.
I think Carlito gets bitten, and because you got to have that one in a zombie movie who's been bitten and is slowly turning throughout the film.
And then and Sherman kind of gives him a boost, and they find the rest of the group, and then they find this place that has food.
That's why I keep thinking of Thanksgiving, where he just finds his turkey on the ground.
Yeah. And a common video game trope. I think they played on this in Press Start as well, where they reach under the wall hangings and pull out a leg of turkey. It's like,
wall turkey.
Yes.
And they use turkeys several times in here.
Food is where you find it.
Or was it a turkey or was it chicken? But anyways, it looked like it could have been both. But Whiskers ends up using one later on. So
was that during the time period where they're all kind of semi-split up because the guy with the mask is like, "Let me investigate this pool of blood. It's a pool of blood. Let me investigate." Which again is a play on the game. Yeah.
Yeah, they are kind of semi-separated. I believe Lindsay ends up, he and Polly and Johnny Redshirt end up kind of palling around together. Mm-hmm. And then you had, again, Tokeen with the other two. And this, I think when they see the food, I think is where they plant the seed of Tokeen, for whatever reason, is deathly afraid of turkeys.
Yes.
Which becomes a little bit interesting later. And actually, that's also a Slayers tie-in because they had that whole feat of where you could be afraid of some random thing for no reason. And
did anybody actually take that as a kind of a racial joke there? Because, he's afraid of turkeys.
No.
It might have been.
I don't know if it was a double thing. Only the creators would be able to tell us.
Yeah. Was that?
Yep.
I think that's searching for too much under that kind of humor. I don't think they were realizing what they were saying when it sounds like a double standard there.
You were about to say something, Forrest?
No, I wasn't.
Oh, okay. Sorry, just want to make sure you had a chance.
So I'm going to be honest. This is one where I have trouble placing the scenes in order.
It kind of all happens at once.
So if anyone has a particular,
where they were with the paper mache monster,
the monster
that looked like it was part paper mache, part tent.
But that happened afterwards.
That
all
one,
together at the time. And,
so that one, if I'm remembering correctly, I know the weapons nut was there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think Tokeen and who
Broadchest
else
was there.
Broadchest.
Because Broadchest gets eaten by it.
Yes, that monster takes out Broadchest. It kills him, and it appears to eat the other guy. Appears to. Because these things.
Meanwhile, a giant rat has bitten.
I love the visuals of that. No. The rat was the one that killed Broadchest, wasn't it? Because he went in and he got all cut up. And he was like,
Yeah. And
Oh yeah, because he was the one who's like saying, "Yeah, this giant rat did it."
Yeah, they were making fun of him like a rat.
they extended his death scene so that he could at least tell them a little bit about it.
That's making
Yeah.
fun of the whole snake thing where they have a giant snake called Yawn. That's the name of the villain in the original game. And it's a giant snake, and he's got this bite. And if you look at the game graphic, he's got the bite with these holes like about this big around going like this all throughout him. You're like, he ain't gonna live. He's talking about being poisoned. It's like, poison? How did the venom get injected? It looks like it just went right through.
Yeah. And this is a big rat. It's a big rat. He opens the door. And it's like, what's that kid's book with the hamster? It's like Humphrey or whatever. It's like that sort of, or My Humongous Hamster, I think it is.
Yeah.
It's like that sort of thing. It's like you gotta go, ooh,
Hamtaro.
And then of course Tokin goes in there to get what turns out to basically be a single-use key, which again, this is kind of like, I know this plays into video game gameplay, because some of this stuff is like, they go to all this trouble for something that basically, it opens the back door.
Ultimately, in the Resident Evil games, there was always a key to a door, and oftentimes there were chests to hide things, and because you were this person sent there on a mission, and you would be able to save your location at these specific spots as well. And I know that they used Nightmare Creatures 1 and 2 were kind of spawned from Resident Evil, and I know that those two used the same kind of formula.
Yeah, they made fun of the chest mechanic in Silent Horror, where the guy's just basically going through the massive chest. Yeah. Like, you're just like taking random stuff from people's house. Like, whoa, look at this! This is awesome! I gotta put this in.
And again, they did that as well on Press Start, where it's like they're at the hero's house, and Linku is going through the chest. What? It was open. It's basically, the other one I wanted to mention, the other game mechanic that I found amusing. We mentioned that crank. That crank was about that big, I think. Yeah. And it's like, it goes like this, and is like that big around, I think. And they show it, and then when it's time to use it again, it's like, where were you keeping that? I'm glad I don't want to know. It's like,
I know in the games they get stuff like fanny pack size, but you gotta wonder where they're stuffing stuff like the rocket launcher that they get later on. It's like, that takes up one item spot and 6.
You had that? Jesus Christ. But that basketball comes in handy later on, doesn't it?
Yes.
Oh yes. When they fight Buck, well, of course he disintegrates zombies' heads with it in one point, which I find is, like I said, this is a power. Maybe they're right. Maybe it is a powerful tactical weapon that looks like basketball.
Well, and we'll eventually get to the part where the basketball really gets to shine.
He's only the rookie.
Yeah,
but he was a power forward.
Well, and that's also a common game mechanic, and I think we talked a little bit about this in the discussion on When They Cry, which is essentially based on a sound novel, which is sort of a game. But basically, you tend to have these really bland protagonists that you can make as much or as little of them as you will. But then when it comes time for the movie adaptation, there's not really much to work with. So it's kind of... or the TV adaptation or whatever. So that was kind of interesting. Were there any other characters? I think we kind of hit on most of them, right?
The doctor girl.
Oh, yeah, the doctor. And what was her name again?
She was about the Wati virus.
Yeah.
The whole Jurassic Park video.
Yes, I love the Jurassic Park video where they explain the Wati virus, and it's a blatant knockoff of John Hammond's video. Yes.
I like how the virus pulls out a gun.
Yeah. I guess Annette Perkins was her.
Mhm.
She's played by Lynn Sanchez-Frias. She plays the character as, kind of no nonsense and not much warmth either. And she just kind of...
They had a chance to rescue her, but that kind of fell through too with Lynn.
Edward Lindsay, yes. I think, was it her that he made some crack about not having a chance to bed or whatever,
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a few other. Actually, this will be an appropriate point to mention one of my favorite ones. The laws of science don't apply to Edward freaking Lindsay.
No, they don't.
I can't remember the context on that. I just remember that was very amusing. And a couple of the other characters did have some pretty good, commentary as well. But I think in that big final thing, I think it came down to Lindsay, Tolkien, Clyde. We didn't really mention the aftermath of the food thing. So it turns out that it was a bad idea to eat the food. Very bad idea. And it was loaded with some other sort of virus. And Sherman actually ends up biting it before Carlito's transformation is complete. And that was kind of interesting. And it gave birth to some weird creature. What did they call that thing? It was
the Charybdis.
Charybdis, I think. Yeah, or Scylla. Maybe they called it Scylla Charybdis. I think I know that, of course, that's a reference to two creatures in the Odyssey, but that was interesting. Yeah.
It was a weird creature to begin with. So
is that what you meant by the paper mache creature?
Yeah, paper mache creature, and it kind of looked like they put the paper mache over a tent. So
it kind of did. A little bit.
You got to be creative with a budget of $1,000.
You do, yeah. The plant monster was more like almost like just a paper cutout almost. It was more construction. That's not really the right way to say, is it? I don't know. So we had that big scene, and then, like I said, by the end, you get several people meeting up with Johnny. You're still alive, You got Clyde ends up getting it. What happened with him? It was something. Wasn't he taken out by the mask dude?
Out by Whiskers. He was taken out by Whiskers. He was like, who are you? And he was like, I should have taken care of you years ago. Or something like that. He got point blank shot, and then that was when he met up with the others in the other room and stuck the chicken inside the oven or turkey inside the oven, and we got the turkey who looked like one of the Godzilla creatures, So Kaiju monster.
And they brought back, of course, the thing from Silent Horror, the medallion that you get in the special edition of Lunar 2, which, by the way, I also have. So apparently I can control the undead as well. And he was using it to control the zombies and the monsters. Like I said, there were a couple of plot points that make Silent Horror worth watching to carry it over. Though, again, not necessary, because they find out that the amulet is not necessarily the same amulet that they had in Silent Horror 1, or the original Silent Horror.
Right.
So ultimately, what did everyone think of this film?
Well, we haven't gotten to the end yet. The end is where you get the survivors, Tokeen and Edward, running from Gobblescat down the hillside, and there's like what was it, like a self-destruct or something was going on.
It's always self-destruct.
Oh yeah, and then a missile comes their way, and this is where the basketball really comes in handy. He throws the basketball and misses, or does, and he manages through some combination of trigonometry and geometry and just plain dumb luck to pull off one of the best basketball moves he probably ever has. And if I remember correctly, throws the missile right into Gobblescat, I believe.
Turns the direction of the missile right into him.
Well, and Edward Lindsay is like, I don't think that worked, dear sir. And he's like, wait for it.
Yes.
Wait for it. Yes. And actually, I don't remember the exact context of this, but it was in that run-up to the final thing where Edward Lindsay was having one of his boss battles, if you will. And he had one of his best non-sexist lines. Edward Lindsay has 1 million moves. You've seen 13 of them. It's going to be a long day. I thought that was good times. What's that?
Edward Lindsay is just so quotable. I mean, even at that crank door, he was like,
Yeah.
I haven't even seen that since the drunken monks of whatever, so.
Yeah. Something like that. Yeah, and he had a couple of, Oh, this was actually, I think this was dealing with the plant monster, actually. Where he's like, oh, when Edward Lindsay gets stuck in the bush likes it. Anyway, that's enough of that foolishness. So, Dave, I know you were trying to get into some of the production values, and definitely we want to talk about the top-notch special effects of that whole basketball missile sequence. That was that kind of
drawn in, or at least put in with clip art. It was almost as bad as Birdemic.
Almost,
but it actually looked better than Birdemic's clip art birds. So as far as anything goes, and I've seen bad movies, but in any case, I guess it worked for what they needed it. I mean, it effectively transfused the missile to where it needed to at the location that they specified. So
I think if they were going for this to be even a semi serious, or like silent horror really had more of a serious vibe to it. It had humor, but it had more of a serious vibe. If they were going for that vibe with this one, then that last scene would have failed miserably. But since they were going for humor, and they did such a good job building the humor, I think it actually almost added to it.
Oh yeah, they did a great job with the humor, and yeah, I think this is a good. I mean, the music in this was not really much to write home about.
Yeah,
no.
Yeah, it was serviceable. Yeah.
Yet better than the Resident Evil director's cut.
Oh, okay. All right. So, do we have more we want to cover, or have we pretty well got it?
Well, why don't we get final thoughts, I guess.
Okay.
Which I can go and do.
Go for it.
I think that final thought-wise, this was a good end cap. And though I do feel like there is a lot more that X-Strike has to give, and in a way, I feel like they had just kind of hit their stride at the end of the tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
And darned if I wouldn't have loved to have seen Side Quests and Pirates versus Ninjas, the movie. But, no, not Pirates versus Ninja Storytime, the movie. I would have loved to have seen both of those. I'm still not terribly sad because at least they end on a very high note.
Right.
And with that, I mean, I will always have the memories of them because I have their DVDs. And it's just really cool having it. Matter of fact, if you go on there, and I also want to do a shout out to them, go on to their Facebook page. And they're even doing a DVD pack, which they may be trying to do where they just give you kind of 4 extract DVDs for $5.
Wow.
So you could actually get like a whole bunch of them. They're redoing, let's see, they're redoing River City Rumble. So that's going to be coming up again. And they're hoping to revive, and I think more support is needed. So if you look at their stuff and like it, take a look at our stuff. We've covered all of their feature films here. Check them out because they are worthwhile. Check out their YouTube channel. There's a ton of short films they did after this, and many of them are very fun. They did like a Fallout one. They did like a couple of them. So if anything, it's just fun to look. And check out Off Campus. I mean, I need to rewatch the series. I haven't watched it in ages. And it was fun. I'm hoping one day they can do a complete off-campus release. I think they did a limited run of it, but I missed it. So I'm really hoping one day that they can get us a full on physical media off-campus series because it was a fun one. So with that, I just wanted to do that to shout out to the people who do this, the people like X Strike or Dark Maze, which did. Press Start 1 and 2, or Dead Gentleman, now known as Zombie Orifice, who did the Demon Hunters and Gamers series. Zombie Orifice. Sorry, it's just something that you should. I mean, support these creators if you can. I try to. My money is spread thin. Like I want to support another creator at this point, and he's asking for like support, and I try. But it's just like, we've all got to try and chip in where we can.
Mm-hmm. I agree. So, did anyone else have anything else to add?
Well, since it's my first time watching an X-Strike film, I'm going to be checking out their other movies from here on out. Since for me, this is my first time seeing anything from them.
Yeah, I got into them through Brandon, and I ended up hunting down River City Rumble. It was on an eBay purchase. So if you find it, fine. If you need a copy, I'm sure one of us can provide. In any case,
I can digitize most. Matter of fact, they're on their website, but to get to their website to buy stuff, you kind of have to type in, and I'll see if I can throw that into the movie group. Link so that you can have that.
Actually, I'm on their website right now. All their movies are like $5 a piece.
Oh yeah, they're very cheap. Except you can't get like one of them, I think, and that's it. So most of them are available.
And then we've got. Well, do we get final thoughts from everyone? It's fun to check it out.
On a whole, the whole
okay.
series is just kind of fun to go through. And honestly, X Strike Studios, they weren't doing it for us; they were doing it for them. I don't think they were doing it for a broader audience. I mean, you can tell that a lot of them are like brothers.
For the fans, I think it's definitely a for the fans movie.
Yeah, they are definitely fans of the film, of the games that they tried to respect, and that's one thing that I got to give X Strike Studios that they did have respect for the gamer knowledge of gaming, and they tried to put it on film for their own selves, if not for a small audience. I mean, they probably didn't think that their films would ever supersede their small town, you know. So, but in any case, thank you for listening, ladies and gentlemen. Definitely check the films out, and we're going to be going on Event Horizon shortly. So definitely check that out.
You can Paul W.S. Anderson.
Thank you for listening, and say good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.